First weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships coming to its conclusion here in Altenberg in Germany as we get ready for the deciding heat of the two-man World Championships. Martin Haven and John Morgan placing our bets to see who's going to get the medals. Although, John, the gold might be out of reach.
Well, this track we call too tough to tame. It's like Darlington in NASCAR. And on this heat, Ivo de Bruin crashed. He almost crashed in the second run. Both Dutch athletes walked away. But here's my favorite for an upset medal. This Hans-Peter Hungehofer came out of nowhere, 18th best, or 18th start in the first run. But he's got better in every heat. He's the third best time of the last two runs. He's at a dead heat tie with Michael Vogt. Vogt had the second best time of the first run, but he's fallen off. And he's the only guy that could prevent a German sweep of the podium, because in front of Hungehofer and Vogt, two more German sleds, and it's Johannes Lochner, who's medaled on this track all the time. You know, he was a world champion in four-man. He's the only guy to beat Francesco Friedrich this year. 16 races. Friedrich has won 15 of them. But on this day, Friedrich is on the verge of becoming the greatest of all time, eclipsing Eugenio Monti's records. And Friedrich has got a 1.48 second lead, an astonishing lead, something I think we've never seen in the modern day of the sport of bobsled as we know it.
Well, John, I think you're absolutely right. It's an astonishing performance by Friedrich and Schiller. And Francesco told me yesterday he thinks the start and track records are achievable if conditions are cold enough today. It's still a little humid, but you know without doubt they will be going for both of them. So we could be in for a great final run. Our fastest 20 go through. Benny Meyer will not compete, nor will Ivo de Bruin after crashing out yesterday and today. And so Lamendine will be the first sled down. There's Hansi Lochner on the left. Brad Hall just goofing around in the car park where they all warm up. And there are Friedrich and Vogt. On the left, Chris Woolley, who is managing the team, also their start trainer. And he's part of the reason they've got such great getaways in those sleds. There is the battle, the prize that they're all battling for, the Max Huben Trophy, presented by the natives of Lake Placid to the Bobsleigh Federation, who now hand it out to the two-man champion every single season. Lamendine of Great Britain will be, as he was in the first heat, the first man out of the start shed. And the last to go will be the race leader, Francesco Friedrich. And unless he crashes, the chances are he will be the world champion. 20 sleds to go to decide the medals in the two-man bobsleigh world championships for 2021. Lamendine and James De Solo kick off the action for Great Britain. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching it with you.
Well, Lamin just made the cut. You know, he's got the 18th in the World Cup. He's 18th in the first run, 18th in the second run, and here he is in 20th. So he's pretty much the norm for him in this World Championships. Martin, I don't think he made the cut last year in the World Championships, but you know,
no, 24th last year here.
Better. So he's improved, but you know, with a sprinter like his brakeman is, just can't believe he's not getting better starts. He does better in the four-man, Martin, and he's got some sprinters in that four-man sled too.
Yes, he sure does. Best speed so far, 1:11. So 62.5 miles an hour. And a nice clean run from Lamendine. Now, is the track any quicker? 56.29, well, that was quicker than his first heat today. Temperature dropping just 5 minutes after 4 local time, so the sun is already hovering behind the trees, ready to dip below the horizon. By the end of the hour, are we going to be in track record territory? I'm not sure. A little bit of frost there
about
from
his
the
visibility.
cloud.
Yeah. On his visibility he was talking about, but you see the fog and the mist. You know, and it does affect you. You know, the athletes put that Rain X or that on their visor to Hope they don't fog up. And Lamin, pretty good drive down the track. He was a little sloppy in the third run.
James De Solo, second fastest ever 100-meter time by a British athlete. He'll be joined by the third fastest man, Joel Fearon, on the four-man sled next week. That is all for next week. To the case in hand, Alexei Stulnev with Vladislav Yurovtsev on the back of the Bobsleigh Federation of Russia. This is the number 2 sled. Stulnev has been the team leader for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Kind of last man standing almost in the Russian Federation. But now young Rostislav Gajtukovic has come along. And basically, he's just pulled out and gone by Stulnev this season. Stulnev 19th place.
Martin, the Bobsled Federation of Russia just doesn't have a star like Zubkov used to be. This athlete here, Stulnev, had some always top 10 finishes, 13th in last year's World Championships, but that other athlete we'll see in a few sleds has emerged as the top Russian star, but not in this competition so far, Martin. You know, the BFR is just still trying to build towards the results they used to have. 3,100s up. He should be 3,100s up on Lamin with his experience.
He's only 900s up.
There's
after
the graveyard
3 heats. But he is really opening this up. Yeah, really good run. The first decent one we've seen. Should be able to pick off
the track
sled.
too.
Yeah.
Martin, that's the fastest he's been down in all 4 runs by a lot. Well, 700s in the previous.
Yeah.
700s, yeah. So, you know, Stulnev has a great second day. He wasn't very good in the first day. 22nd and then 18th. Then he drove himself into the field in the third run with the 16th best time. That's not the same athlete that he'll gonna wave at that cardboard crowd.
Waving to the crowd, that's a nice touch. That's really nicely done.
Yeah.
Because the athletes are missing the fans at least as much as the fans are missing the athletes.
Especially here, Martin, there's usually 3,000–4,000 people over there, all chanting the names.
Well, that's a snapshot, just the ones who are on the bleachers. Normally they're all over the bridge. It's just a sea of humanity all the way down the track. As you'll see from some of our POV shots, which we shot last year, crowds 5 or 6 deep all the way down. Mihai Center of Romania with Raul Dobre stepping into the sled for the second day's action after Ciprian Doroxi pulled up lame yesterday. So let's see if they can hold on. 1300s over Stulnev. Stulnev put in a good second run today, though.
Yeah, this could be a change. This young athlete, though, he had to drive himself into the competition. First heat, he was 21st, moved up into 19th and 18. And I like bringing up that the Romanians have been a former world champion in the sport. They won in 1933, 1934. Their last Olympic medal came in Grenoble in '68. Their last world championship medal in Lake Placid in '73. And Martin, they used to have a track up in Sinaia, up in the mountains of Romania. That was a famous track. But these athletes come out here and they do so much with so little. And look at these lines. He's going to have enough, Martin. I don't know if it'll be his best heat, but he should be the leader.
Holding his lead, 55.83. Yeah, that's his best heat as well.
Best heat of the 4, so the track does have some opportunity left, but these are the earlier sleds, Martin. Things fall off after 10 sleds come down and scratch it up. There's no Zamboni that comes out here and cleans the ice like we know in hockey, but they do a pretty fantastic job of maintaining the ice here.
Yeah, they do. I mean, the drivers and the crews know this is a track that doesn't take prisoners, but the other thing they know about Altenberg is the ice is always absolutely Olympic standard.
Well, they're getting in. This is a longer start track. This is the longest one in the world. Maybe Le Plan, France is similar. Look at the technique by the brakeman to get his hands in, get down. Mihai will down, and he's the leader.
Yeah. no worse than 18th, but he finished in 10th place last year in the Worlds on this same track. Patrick Baumgartner is next up for Italy. 2012 Youth Olympic champion Baumgartner, and still really waiting to convert that into a big step forward. Was 20th in last year's Worlds here in Altenberg, lies 17th after 3 heats.
There's quite a separation of 1900s between him and the Romanian leader at the bottom. And Martin, you said it. I mean, he won that Junior Olympic Championship in 2012 in Innsbruck, and we haven't seen much since from this alpine skier who, you know, and his brakeman's new to the sport. He's a hammer thrower. You mentioned that in the first run. But, you know, driving seems to be pretty good. 1600s, third best speed. He's got to have good lines. Keep that 1600s lead. It's down to 10, 13. The graveyard's going to be the key right here.
Ooh.
Perfect. 500s. Now it's either way, Martin.
I think Tentea believes. How close? Tentea is ahead by 100th. Oh, that's tough after 4 heats of the World Championships to slip a spot by 1/100th of a second.
Wow. They have similar start times, you know, but 100th, it's cruel, Martin. Come down the track 3 miles in distance in 4 runs, and you lose by your fingernail or less. Look at the lines. You know, he had a 1600s lead here, and look at the Romanian pull away in that time lapse. Pretty similar lines, Martin.
Yep.
But, you know, the Romanian obviously didn't steer as much as Baumgartner, but how can you fault 100th of a second?
Yeah.
Painful.
Well, maybe Tentea just got a slightly better run onto the Kreisel. Just heard in the break from Ivo de Bruin saying that he was too much in the middle going onto the Kreisel, and that meant first pressure was late, second pressure was late, and trying to avoid the late third pressure, he pulled the sled down a little early, and that's all she wrote. Well, next up, Dominique Dvorak and Jakob Noshek, third in the World Cup overall standings for two-man this year. A fantastic World Cup season for him. This is a World Championships that hasn't quite lived up to that billing. 14th last year, 16th after the first heat, but 14th is only 600ths away. Ooh, little drift.
Skid there. 5:34. I mean, you know, he's got the 11th best starts. Martin, he shouldn't be back here. He finished like 14th in this race last year, and it's strange because we're only about a mile from the Czech border, and the Czech teams have always used this as almost their home training track. And, you know, Ivo Dalanovic, Pavel Puskar, all the past Czechs always did well on this track. And he's off, you know, he's coming off the most successful Czech season ever, 3rd place in the World Cup standings. Just hasn't achieved on this track, Martin.
Well, it was the second heat that really cost him. He was 14th after the first heat, got too much snow in the second heat, ran into too many snow drifts and dropped 17th fastest time. Now, across the line, he'll take the lead from Mihai Tentea, 55.81. Not quite as quick as his last trip down. Is that enough to pick off Gajtukovic and Schreikel? We're going to find out in the next 5 minutes. But his two-man Worlds is done.
Yeah, you know, last year he finished 14th, so this year he could match that if he picks off those next 2 sleds.
Yep.
But he always trying to achieve personal best. Martin, he still had a spectacular season with that World Cup Crystal Globe that he won. Look at this little mistake here. Their brakeman might have run too far, or either one of them they tap. That is such a no-no to be skidding up there out of those drive lines before the first curve.
Yep.
He's looking at it
Dominique Dvorak, yeah. Well, he was so excited with that Crystal Globe. Dvorak leads with 15 sleds to go. With an advantage of just 300ths over the current leader. 4th and final run in the World Championships for two-man for Rostislav Gajtukovic and Ilya Malik. Gajtukovic, another big star of this season, crashed out in the second heat a year ago. 5:31. He knows that there's pressure on in this final run.
Martin, the 6th best start in the last run. In Innsbruck last week, when he won his first ever medal of bronze, he had the 2nd best start. But this start track's a different setup than Innsbruck. This is, you have to run farther, and it doesn't suit his skills. And, you know, we were really promoting him as having a breakout year and being the best BFR sled, but hasn't performed at that level in this competition. Only 300
gets down all four heats, that will be a lot better than last year. 400s, he's hanging on in there, only just. Needs to be clean at the line, and he is. Yes, he holds on. Dvorak doesn't get a spot from him. He'll just have to hope that Marcus Streichel has a loose run. Yeah.
Fastest he's ever been down. That's a, you come down your best heat of the 4 in your final run, you'll walk away from the track and say, well, I didn't let Altenberg beat me up. I'm happy.
Yeah. Altenberg won last year. Didn't win this year.
Yeah. Here's the Omega curve. Keep your eyes on this. The exit of this curve, you don't want to hit the right-hand wall. He doesn't. That's a great entry into curve 5, 6, 7. Here, the long straightaway out of the Schodai curve, named for the 94 Olympic gold medalist from Germany, Harold Schodai.
And Schodai still a forerunner here this weekend. Yeah, I'll be back. Schodai forerunning with the sponsor of the event. Marcus Streichel next up for Austria with Sebastian Mitterer. 15th and 10th fastest runs on day 1, 16th on day 2. He needs another top 10 run if he can to seal this 14th position. And who knows, maybe just 300 ahead of him, Yun Jong-won. That's a target.
Well, he doesn't get the great starts, Martin. You know, the 19th, 20th, and 18th best starts. But to be in this position of 14th means he drove better than his start time. He drove himself into that position. Can't hit the wall here on the right. He does it. And it's, as you said, it's so tight here. He could easily drop a couple spots. So it's 500s down now. If he keeps it within 700, 800s, it's good. It's 5 to 5, 4th best speed. He's got a chance, Martin, because there is time to find on the bottom with good eye-hand skills. And he's got it right now.
Stamford's worked his magic on the sled, hasn't he? He was, wasn't he? That was wild. He's letting it go. All or nothing for Marcus Streichel. He's going to hold his spot. He does.
Another fastest time of the 4 runs for Marcus Streichel.
Yeah.
Great driving by this Austrian. He's had a lot of injuries the last couple of years, Martin. You know, but this has got to make him feel good. It's better personal best on this track compared to what he did last year.
Now, is that enough to pick off Yun Jong-won? That might be well worth watching.
Now, Stolnov had the earlier ice to work with. Streichel drove well, though, with the start time. He's given up time at the start. No mistakes allowed on this track that's too tough to tame, as we've seen from every one of the women's bob, men's bob heats so far. Look at the airborne here. Look at him go airborne into 13, 14 into the crossover.
Yeah. Sled heading out there, waiting for the sled truck to go back to their hotel garage, wherever they are. Now he'll be watching this with interest. Yun Jong-won with a change of brakeman today. Hyungwoo Jung in the back in place of Youngwoo Seo. Seo has been with one in almost every 2-man and 4-man race I can think of for years. 18th and 6th fastest on day 1. 15th fastest run for heat 3. 5:38 getaway. What's he got? Can he hold off Marcus Streichel?
His brakeman's astute. Was not part of his Olympic bronze or silver medal team from 2018, but none of his team is here. So But he had a bad first run, Martin, because he started so late, but done pretty good since then. And he won the World Cup title in 2014-15, and you don't do that without talent. He understands the equipment, runners. He's only lacking in start times.
Big skid there, that's going to take speed away. I think Treichel is going to pick him off. Going to be close at the line. Oh, it's not close. At 10th back, he drops 2 spots. He's behind Gajtukovic and tied with Dvorak. So effectively almost dropped 3.
Well, Martin, we talk about the commentator's jinx. I think I was talking so highly of him in the Kreisel. And after 11-12, he went into that big skid into 13. And I jinxed him. And, but, you know, we both do that constantly.
Well, One and Treichel, Gajtukovic and Dvorak were covered by 900s with the final run to go. So it was always going to be a bit of a sort out. And Treichel has bobbed to the top, followed by Gajtukovic. One slips back to tie with Dvorak. Tied for 3rd with 12 to go. So shakes his head. Yoon Jong-won knows that got away from him down at the fastest part of the track. Final 10 sleds, 12 sleds next up in the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Championships. Brad Hall and Greg Cackett for Great Britain. And Brad 16th here last year. So this represents an improvement for him and probably an improvement on what's been going on in the season. Greg Cackett making his final start of the year, goes home after today to look after his dad. So we send best wishes to him and the rest of the family.
Yeah. Good season for Brad Hall, but except for no luck. I mean, we talk about it in every heat. But he's stayed very persistent, and as you expect, he's a decathlete. Of course, if you're a decathlete, you have to be a persistent athlete. 1900s, only the 8th best speed. Yeah.
This is his favorite
BTC here, down to 13.
1300s. Doesn't have the skid that we saw from One. 800s, it's going to be close with Marcus Treichel.
Right to the 100.
He was 1400s up on Treichel, but he hangs on.
He hangs in there. So good driving in the bottom. That's what did it for him. Yeah. You know, Brad Hall keeps coming on, Martin. If things all come together with him the next season, I think he'll be on the verge of challenging for an Olympic medal.
Well, they were 4th in Whistler in 2019 in the two-man, so Altenberg hasn't played as well for them. Better this year than last, but like you say, if it wasn't for bad luck, they'd have had none at all this year. So
none.
Season done for Greg Cackett, and it is a top 12 finish.
At least. Now this little tap that didn't help him. You don't want to hit the take onto that wall. Looks what happens. See, you do that, the sled comes up in the air. That's not as bad as many of them. Down here in the graveyard, that little tap, well, he had good lines down there, Martin. That's why he stayed ahead.
Yep. And they'll be looking forward to four-man week, hopefully getting everybody healthy. Next up, the first of a pair of Canadian sleds separated by just, what are we talking, 600ths of a second? No, 1300ths of a second. Chris Spring closed in on teammate Justin Cripps. Both of them looking for a top 10 finish. 13th, 12th and 10th. Spring has been getting better with each run.
Yeah, but Martin, what's very perplexing, in the first run he had the 4th best start. The second heat, the 14th best start. The third heat, the 9th best start. So, you know, consistency is a big part of the success in bobsledding. You got to be more consistent than that.
Yeah, each of the starts has got slower. So again, you wonder whether Spring is quite as healthy as he was coming in just a day ago. Best speed in the Kreisel.
3/10 lead. This is a good run. We've seen people post their best time of the 4 runs. This could be another one. He's pulling away.
He's coming for you.
For the Springer.
He's coming for a top 10 finish, Chris Spring, the track that nearly killed him, 55.61.
guess what, Martin? Another best of the 4 runs down the track for the guy who's now got a pilot's license. Guy in the back's an electrical engineer.
Yeah, Springer likes that one.
He likes it?
Yep.
He should like it.
And rightly so. He should like it.
Well, the lines, let's compare Brad Hall and Chris Spring. We have some different negotiation patterns through this curve. And Springer's catching up to Hall there. Hall had a pretty consistent line, Spring up and down. But the up and down line, Martin, especially on the exit, seems to be the one that is the best.
The idea when you're racing cars is make the car do the work, let it do what it wants, just ease it in the right direction. And maybe that's what the Springer thought there. If it wants to go up and down in the Kreisel, don't let it go too far. Chris Spring leads from Brad Hall and Marcus Treichel. 10 down, 10 to go. Final 10 sleds in the 2-man bobsleigh World Championships in Altenberg, Germany. Justin Cripps and Cam Stones having now to respond to a great challenge from teammates Chris Spring and Mike Evelyn. And they start by the same margin, 5:34. So 1300ths of a second lead remains as Cripps sits down.
Well, the Cripps isn't getting the starts. And boy, you know, he was way in the back of the park because he didn't have the World Cup points. And, you know, in the first heat in the draw. Since then, he's, you know, creeped up a little bit each run. Now he wants to solidify a top 10 run, and he better figure things out quick because he's 900s behind his teammate, Chris Spring, at the bottom.
And Spring had the speed.
Back. I don't think he's going to do it.
He's not coming. He hasn't got the speed. Cripps was the fastest. Spring was the fastest all the way down the track. Cripps is going to drop out of 10th place, and Spring moves up.
That's the race within a race amongst the Canadians.
Repeat of yesterday. Yesterday, Cripps was 12th and then 8th. Today, he's 11th and then 7th. And Spring takes the spot away in the top 10.
Well, won a couple World Championship medals in this quad, but not this time. Likes the track, too. Different start. These two last week at a top 3 or 4 start. They're not getting the starts. 9th, 12th, 13th in the first 3 runs. Little drift there before the first curve. You know, the start's not everything on this track. Boy, look at that pressure there. And the skid out of the Matthias Benish curve. Big mistake there. That's what happened to him, why he's falling behind his teammate. That skid up out of curve 1.
We heard Cripps say we'll get him next week, buddy, in the 4-man. We'll have to wait to see what Oskars Melbardis of Latvia can produce then as well. At the moment, 9th place with rookie brakeman Chris Lindenblatz in his first World Championships. And his driver, Oskars Melbardis, in his 9th. He had 1 as a brakeman. This is his 8th World Championship appearance as a driver.
Well, he's one of the most decorated athletes in Latvian history with the gold medal, 14. Bronze medal in the 2-man, everybody forgets, from Pyeongchang. He was 3rd in that race where Friedrich and Cripps tied for the gold. If it wasn't for his 2nd run, Martin, he might have been right up there challenging. He's only about 800ths behind those guys in that historic race in Pyeongchang in 18. So he's late in his career, and he used to dominate the sport with start times.
He's in trouble. 200s up. He's got no speed. It's gone away. He's going to lose a place to Spring. And if he's more than 1200s behind, he's going to lose 2 places. He's going to lose 2 places. He's going to drop behind Cripps and Brad Hall as well. No, yes, by 100th behind Brad Hall. He drops 3 places. Well, 7th and 15th on day 1, John. 9th and, well, that's only the 11th best run, but we've still got 8 sleds to go. It's the 2nd heat on both days that has let him down. Wow.
He used to dominate at the start. And sometimes driving would prevent him from winning all the races because he had the best start times with everybody. Since that back operation, though, Martin, he hasn't been what he was, say, 2018 season. Driving here, though, look at Sanders Proust, his coach, knows that he just threw away a top 10 for his athlete.
Oh, that's tough for Oscars Melbardis. 8 to go now, and Chris Spring leads for Canada. Roman Heinrich of France, Dorian Hauteville, they were in 8th place overnight, stayed 8th place after the 3rd heat. And this represents a personal best on this track and in the World Championships for Heinrich. 9th last year, that was his previous World Championship best. But as we've just seen from Melbardis and from Juan and from Cripps, you cannot be anything other than perfect here, or things get taken away.
Better start than he had in the previous run. And Martin, I've been impressed with Roman Heinrich and his brakeman Dorian. Dorian's a track and field coach after playing soccer for a decade, and they recruited him into the sport. And Heinrich has been very consistent, Martin. Doesn't get the great starts, but again, 9th last year. If he gets to the bottom here, he achieves a personal best. And there's a lot of athletes that have personal bests taped to their locker before they come out here. Just doing better than you've ever done.
Great speed into the Kreisel, skids off. Second best speed is good though. He's trimmed out for speed today. Huge slide through the graveyard, but he's going to hold on. He will take the lead away from Chris Spring. Yeah.
All those mistakes there. Not his best run, Martin. 55.88, 2600ths worse than his last heat. There's been a lot of athletes come down the track posting their best time of the 4 runs. That was not Heinrich's best run, and he'll be the first to tell you.
But he holds on at least to 8th. The thing is, it doesn't allow him to move up.
No, for sure. But, you know, this track doesn't give anybody any lets. So it's airborne into 13, 14. And then there's the graveyard. You want to see why we call this the graveyard? There you go. The graveyard of time. He got stopped. Lost a lot of time in that section of the track for sure.
Patrice Savella Monaco, his driving coach here, giving him the big thumbs up. Top 8 is a personal best, but he was hoping maybe to catch this man, Christoph Hafer of Germany, with Christian Hammers making his first ever World Cup appearance. Behind him on the brakes, they were only 700ths ahead of Heinrich. But the same rule applies. One slip, and you're gone.
Yeah, I say it. He's got the 16th best time in the last heat at the start. Ooh, drift there. I've not seen a German pilot have starts like this, I think, since Matthias Hoffner, who's one of the German coaches who would just flip everybody out with a bad start and just fly down the track with unbelievable speeds. That's what this guy does, Martin. He's moved up every run.
Look at the gap coming down, John, and that wasn't good off the Tudai curve either. He's behind in the Kreisel. He doesn't have the speed that Heinrich had. He's got to be clean at the bottom.
500s, that's doable, because remember the mistake that Heinrich made right here in the graveyard. And there's no mistake there. Down to 1, he'll take it over, Martin. He's going to reward himself for a great line out of the graveyard. He'll be the leader. There it is, by a lot. That shows you how much time that Heinrich lost in that graveyard, at least 2/10.
Well, he really found something down at the bottom, didn't he? Christoph Hafer, huge speed down there. Chris Spring still the fastest, but he tied him. So that, as you say, shows exactly what that big sideways skid costs you.
What he found was a straight line. Here up the top, a little drift out of the Benish curve. Little tap here, and that wasn't perfect. Little airborne, see that? Not as bad, but German athlete, you wouldn't expect him to make a mistake on that part of the track. Here, well, this is, you know, luck, sometimes lucky coming off there, but he comes pretty straight in that straightaway.
Yeah. Christoph Hafer, the race leader with 6 to go. A 10th away from a top 6 finish, Hafer was after 3 heats. Will Oscar's Kubermanis give it to him? Or is Kubermanis going to be able to find something to move up? Among the fastest starting crews all season long, 4th and 11th on day 1, 6th, yes, in the 3rd heat this morning, this afternoon even. So, what can he produce here?
20, 21, 25. Martin, not the starts they got yesterday, 17 and 18. You know, and they 23 in the third run. You know, he's World Championship bronze medalist in last year's competition. So he has not performed at the level that everybody wanted him to. Little tap there. That noise tells it all. 11th best heat in the second run. Martin might have sentenced him to off the podium. 3,200s is a good sign, but the 13th best speed.
Yeah.
Down to 28. He's going to bleed more, and he can't make a mistake here in the graveyard. Right here.
Well, what he's not going to do is catch Simon Friedrich, is he? So he will be closer to Hafer. And a 10th in it. Yeah. There was a 10th in it in the advantage. So his
last year bronze medal,
exactly the same. Well, actually, John, Kubermanis, Kubermanis and Mattis Miknis have had 4 consecutive bronze medals in the last 4 races on this track. So for a whole 5 seasons, they have been in the same position apart from this year.
Yeah, the brakeman, the basketball player, real tall guy. Look at the height he gets. Kubermanis is jumping in. Watch the arms come up. Good technique from this 6'3" athlete who gets himself down behind the driver into that aerodynamic profile. You don't even see the brakeman back here, so A+ on the aerodynamic profile for him. I would say this is another B- drive for Kubermanis. He's not going to medal.
Well, you want to guess what the other 2 names have been on the podium for the last 4 seasons, apart from Kubermanis and Miknis on every podium? I bet you can.
Some guys atop of the leaderboard.
Yeah. Wow. Final 5 sleds in the World Championship. Simon Friedrich and Andreas Haas on the back of the sled today. That's a World Championship debut for Haas.
Friedel, 6th in the first run, 5th best time in the second run, 4th best time in the third run. And usually in his World Cup season, Martin, he doesn't do that. He usually doesn't have as good a heat in the second heat of the day.
7th here last year, so this is another step forward. 5th place after 3 heats and only 600s out of the tie for bronze. This is where we decide the medals. Friedrich could paint himself into a medal with a great run.
This is a very good line. He's straight here, Martin. He could challenge this. He's pulling away. This
best speed so far. Simon Friedrich, is it enough for a medal? 55.63. Well, that's not as quick as his 3rd run down this mountain, but that's a good shout.
Ever.
Yeah.
Martin, I'm telling you this right now. That might have something to do with funding in the Swiss Federation, a top 5 finish. But this is a great performance for this young athlete. He got better in every heat. Good lines. This is Omega. And watch him escape without hitting the wall on the right. That's what gives you the speed. He got on that take on his terms. Here, the exit of 9 flops. I don't know if anybody else has come as straight as that so far in this run, Martin. Pretty impressive.
7th World Championships there for the bearded Friedrich. 5 of them with his head buried between his knees, not watching where he's going. 2 as a driver, both played out here. 7th and at least 5th. But the battle for bronze, 2 sleds tied, and Friedrich was only 600s back. Blink in the wrong place, and you're out of the medals here. Here's our junior world champion. Germany's Hans-Peter Hannikhofer with Christian Roeder, both making their World Championship debut at the senior level. Can they take a medal?
Martin, the last time we saw a junior world champion, a drift there. entered the sport was 2013. Some guy named Francesco Friedrich. We had never seen him on the World Cup. He won that event, and he's won 6 straight two-man since. This guy I picked to win a medal after the first run. When he started 18th, he put himself in a 5th place position. Good run here, Martin. We could see a German sweep.
Well, he definitely knows this track well. He's got the ability, he's got the speed in the sled to make mistakes and get away with it somehow. Took a bronze medal in his first World Cup race in Innsbruck. 3,300 up. It's not going to be Friedrich. So, is it Hanighofer or Vogt? 55-41, that's a really strong run.
Other than that mistake up there at the top, that little skid, I predicted he was going to win a medal, Martin, in the first run, because he came in the 18th position all the way to 5th. Another German talent getting out of the sled. He just made a statement. Look at the lines. Look at his brakeman. Look at the head bouncing around. That's the G-force.
Yeah.
Pretty perfect, except right here. Look at the airborne runner in the 13 to 14, but he gets away with it because he comes through this graveyard with not a tap.
Yeah, carrying so
Pretty
much speed there is Hans-Peter Hanighofer. In the next 60 seconds, he will know whether he is a World Championship medalist or not. 3 to go. Mikkel Vogt and Sandro Michel for 22-year-old driver, 24-year-old brakeman. They were tied with Hanighofer after 3 heats.
Martin, it'd be in their best interest to get at least a 29 start. They've got similar starts as Hanighofer. So a 29 or a 30 start would be in their best interest.
Great load as well, 5:27. Vogt is going for it with everything he knows.
The Swiss have high hopes for this young athlete. There's been 4 world championships on this track. The Swiss last won their medal in 2000. Christian Reich, 400s. Boy, Hanighofer, though, really flew on the bottom, so no mistakes allowed. Ooh.
Double tap.
Not perfect.
He's going to be on the wrong side in the Kreisel, and the speed has gone away. Hanighofer's in the medals. Vogt isn't going to catch him. The Swiss will be 4th and 5th. Mikkel Vogt in 4th. And Simon Friedrich in 5th if Vogt survives. Hanighofer had so much speed at the bottom. And Vogt in 3rd place is behind Friedrich. It slips away. Hans-Peter Hanighofer has a World Championship medal to go with his Junior World Championship gold. Vogt can't believe it. All the mistakes he didn't need crept into one run.
He'll be thinking about this for a long time. A chance to put himself in Switzerland as a favorite to win a medal in next year's Olympics just slipped away. And he fell behind his teammate, Friedrich. Martin, boy, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. If you take a picture of him right now, you know, and Martin, he made mistakes all the way down the track, especially from 9, from Chodai curve down. There's a congratulations from the Germans, but that's not going to help.
Yeah. So, Hans-Peter Hanighofer leads for Germany. Next up, Johannes Lochner and Eric Franke. Silver medal has been within their grasp overnight and in the 3rd heat. Top 3 runs all the way, top 3 starts all the way. Now is not the time to flake.
They had
Look at that, what consistency.
In the start, all 4 runs.
4 hits.
That's unbelievable. But Martin, there's one thing that Johannes hasn't been consistent all season. He's the only guy to beat Francesco Friedrich in any race this year, but he's pulling away. But, you know, there's no victory lap here for the silver medal. This track can challenge you with the blink of an eye.
Gaps coming down to Hanighofer. Was 2200s after 3 heats. It's 2700s. It was out to 4/10. Hanikhofer was flying at the bottom. Yeah.
It's going to
He's got enough to take the silver medal. Johannes Lochner leads at the line. It's a German 1-2 with 1 to go.
Yeah, the Swiss were the only ones going to prevent the Germans from a sweep. I said that Hanikhofer would medal. He did, and Vogt let the medal slip right out of his hands.
Well, that was nearly a quarter of a second slower than his last run down, John, so there were mistakes. We saw them. Here's one off Chudai, steers off late and hard, gets into a late skid.
Yeah, but he's got the best, second, third best starts, all 4 runs. You know, Martin, he's the best bobsledder in the world on this planet, but the guy coming up next slides on a different planet by himself.
Yeah. So, Francesco Friedrich with Alexander Schiller. Francesco Friedrich has 6 consecutive 2-man World Championship gold medals. He is going for his 7th straight, and his first with a different brakeman. His first came with Janis Becker, 5 with Torsten Margis, and now with Alexander Schiller. He is 50 seconds away from greatness. 5:11 ties the start record. Ties the start record. Didn't get it. He said if it was cold enough, they could get it. He said if it was cold enough, they could go below 54.0, which is the track record. 53.99 was what he predicted they could do. Can he take the record with the track record?
Well, Eugenio Monti was the greatest of all time. We're looking at now the new greatest of all time, Francesco Friedrich. One more albatross right here, and he comes straight down the middle of the graveyard. Martin,
he's going to win by 2 seconds.
Unbelievable result.
Astonishing 2-second margin of victory. There are 2 races going on here. There's the World Championship for 2-man, and there's Francesco Friedrich's demonstration runs. What an astonishing performance over 2 days. Never once looked like it was getting away from him.
Martin, we're being told now that this might be the greatest difference in time ever at a World Championships in the modern era. And I say the modern era because Billy Fisk in 1932 won by over 2 seconds his gold medal, but that was from a track that was 1.5 miles, and that was from a different century. But what he's done here, Martin, to win by 2 seconds, people might win by 3/10 or 4/10. By 2 seconds, he's just on another planet.
Yeah.
Unbelievable what we've seen here from this guy since he emerged at that World Championships in 2013 in St. Moritz as a junior world champion. And then here we are. How many more times can he do this, Martin?
Well, and that's the question. He's only 30 years old. There are 32-year-olds, 36-year-olds, 39-year-olds in the field. And bobsledders get better with experience. Francesco Friedrich wins gold. Hansi Lochner the silver. Hans-Peter Hanikhofer completes the German sweep in the 2-man with bronze. Ahead of Seymour Friedli, Mikkel Vogt and Oskars Kiebermanis. Christoph Hafer, Roman Heinrich, Chris Spring and Justin Cripps round out the top 10. Well, 2 seconds, it may as well have been 2 minutes, John. It was an epic performance by Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schiller.
Yeah, in the Olympic quadrennial, we had Whistler, Altenberg, and Lake Placid as the World Championship sites. Of course, Lake Placid, where we're supposed to be now, because of the pandemic, it got moved to Altenberg. Martin, I would have put my money on him. And there's the trophy, named after Max Huben, who lost his life at the Lake Placid World Championships in '49. The citizens of Lake Placid have given the trophy out every time since 1950. And this guy's got his name on it way more than anybody else.
Yeah. He does indeed. He is the greatest two-man bobsledder of all time, and he shows no signs of giving up yet. That's it for the first weekend of the BMW IBSF 2021 World Championships. Thanks for being with us. From John Morgan, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, stay safe, take care. We will see you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week for the rest of the World Championships.
Woohoo!